Have you ever wondered why some people remain calm while everything around them is falling apart? Why they don't panic when others lose control? Why criticism doesn't shake them? Why failure doesn't destroy them? And why success doesn't make them arrogant? The answer isn't luck, talent, or money. It's something far older and far more powerful: an unbreakable mind. The ancient Stoics believed that the strongest person isn't the one who wins every battle, but the one who never allows the outside world to control what happens inside. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your mind becomes the color of your thoughts, meaning that every thought you repeat shapes the person you eventually become. Most people unknowingly hand over the keys to their peace. They let strangers decide their mood, social media decide their confidence, money decide their happiness, and other people's opinions decide their self-worth. Every insult feels like an attack, every rejection feels like proof of failure, and every obstacle feels like the end of the road. But a Stoic sees the same world differently. They understand a simple truth: you cannot control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. Imagine standing in the middle of a violent storm. Trees are falling, winds are screaming, and everything around you is chaos. Now imagine being a mountain instead of a tree. The storm can hit you with all its force, but it cannot move you. That is the Stoic mind. It doesn't deny pain, fear, or disappointment. Instead, it refuses to become a prisoner of them. Epictetus, born as a slave, understood this better than anyone. Despite having almost nothing, he taught that true freedom begins the moment you stop expecting the world to behave according to your wishes. Everyday life will test you. Someone will disrespect you. Someone you trusted may leave you. Plans will fail. Opportunities will disappear. Your health, your finances, and your relationships may change without warning. If your peace depends on these things remaining perfect, then your peace was never real. It was only temporary comfort. Stoicism teaches that real strength comes from building your happiness on something no one can take away: your character. A disciplined mind cannot be stolen. Courage cannot be stolen. Wisdom cannot be stolen. Self-control cannot be stolen. These are treasures that become stronger the more life tries to challenge them. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are they didn't become strong because life was easy. They became strong because hardship forced them to grow. Every painful experience became training instead of punishment. Every setback became education instead of defeat. That's why Stoics don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single question changes everything. Instead of becoming a victim of circumstances, you become a student of life. Suddenly failure is no longer an enemy. It becomes a teacher. Criticism becomes feedback. Loss becomes perspective. Fear becomes an opportunity to practice courage. This is why Stoicism has survived for more than 2,000 years. It doesn't promise an easy life. It promises a stronger person. And when you become strong, life itself begins to feel lighter. The problems may not disappear, but they lose the power to control you. Imagine waking up every morning without the constant need for approval. Imagine being able to focus completely on your work without comparing yourself to everyone else. Imagine hearing insults and choosing silence because you know your value isn't determined by another person's opinion. This isn't weakness. This is mastery. Most people react. Stoics choose. Most people chase comfort. Stoics chase character. Most people fear change. Stoics prepare for it every single day. The greatest prison isn't made of steel bars. It's made of uncontrolled emotions and endless desires. The person who cannot control anger becomes its servant. The person who cannot control fear lives inside an invisible cage. The person who constantly needs validation will always belong to the crowd instead of themselves. But the Stoic breaks every one of these chains, one thought at a time. And here's the surprising part: this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens through small daily choices. Choosing patience when anger feels easier. Choosing discipline when laziness whispers excuses. Choosing gratitude when life feels unfair. Choosing action instead of endless complaining. These small victories may seem invisible at first, but over months and years, they create a person who cannot easily be broken. That is the hidden secret of Stoicism. It isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about refusing to let emotions become your master. It isn't about avoiding pain. It's about becoming bigger than your pain. It isn't about controlling the world. It's about finally learning to control yourself. And once you truly understand that difference, you realize that the greatest victory you'll ever achieve isn't over another person, it's over the weaker version of yourself that once believed happiness depended on things outside your control. If you want to understand why Marcus Aurelius remained calm while leading an empire through war, plague, betrayal, and endless pressure, you must first understand one habit that separated him from almost everyone around him. Every morning, before facing the chaos of the world, he prepared his mind for reality instead of fantasy. He reminded himself that he would meet selfish people, dishonest people, impatient people, and people driven by ego. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. Most people begin the day expecting everything to go perfectly, and when reality inevitably disappoints them, frustration takes over. The Stoic does the opposite. By expecting challenges, they are never surprised by them. Imagine walking into a boxing ring expecting a gentle conversation. The first punch would shock you, but if you enter expecting a fight, every punch simply becomes part of the game. Life works the same way. The moment you stop demanding that life be fair, you stop feeling betrayed every time it isn't. This single shift gives you a quiet confidence that cannot be easily shaken. Another powerful Stoic practice is separating what you can control from what you cannot. You cannot control whether people admire you, but you can control whether you act with integrity. You cannot control the economy, the weather, or the opinions of strangers, but you can control your discipline, your habits, your words, and your decisions. Yet most people waste their energy chasing control over things that never belong to them. They replay arguments in their minds, obsess over what others think, and worry endlessly about tomorrow. It's like trying to stop the ocean with your hands. The more you fight reality, the more exhausted you become. Instead, Stoicism teaches you to direct every ounce of energy toward the only place where real power exists, your own mind. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about how many sleepless nights have been caused, not by what actually happened, but by what you feared might happen. The interview that hasn't happened yet, the conversation you keep rehearsing, the failure you imagine before you've even tried. Your mind creates prisons long before reality builds any walls. The Stoic learns to recognize these mental traps and refuses to live inside them. Fear loses its power when you stop feeding it with endless imagination. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means facing them only when they arrive, not 100 times before they exist. Every difficult moment becomes a chance to strengthen your character. Every insult becomes a lesson in patience. Every delay becomes training for self-control. Every disappointment becomes proof that your peace belongs to you, not to circumstances. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. The things that once ruined your entire day become minor inconveniences. The opinions that once kept you awake at night become meaningless background noise. You begin to realize that true confidence isn't loud, aggressive, or desperate for attention. True confidence is quiet because it no longer needs permission from the outside world. It comes from knowing that whatever happens next, you have trained your mind to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. And once you reach that point, life no longer feels like a battle against the world, it becomes a lifelong practice of mastering yourself. One decision, one thought, and one day at a time. There is a reason the strongest people in history were rarely the loudest. They understood something that most of the world still struggles to learn. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your attention. And not every battle deserves your energy. The average person reacts instantly. A rude comment online ruins their mood. One piece of criticism keeps echoing in their mind for days. They argue to prove they're right, defend themselves against every accusation, and exhaust themselves trying to change people who have already decided not to understand them. The Stoic chooses a different path. They understand that every reaction is an investment of energy, and energy is one of the most valuable resources a human being possesses. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the best revenge is not to become like the person who harmed you. Think about that for a moment. If someone is angry, dishonest, or cruel, and you respond with the same anger, dishonesty, or cruelty, who really won? In that moment, they controlled your behavior. They pulled you into their emotional world. But when you remain calm, you keep ownership of yourself. Silence is not weakness. It is proof that your emotions obey you instead of controlling you. This is why Stoics never confuse self-control with passivity. They speak when speaking creates value. They act when action is necessary, but they refuse to waste precious time arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding them. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. Now imagine that every unnecessary argument, every grudge, every regret, and every craving for approval adds another stone to that backpack. Eventually, you become exhausted not because life is impossible, but because you're carrying weight that was never yours to carry. Stoicism teaches you to put those stones down. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need to win every debate. You don't need to explain yourself to people determined to judge you anyway. The moment you stop seeking validation from everyone around you, you discover a freedom that most people never experience. Epictetus taught that if someone speaks badly about you and what they say is true, improve yourself. If it's false, let it pass like the wind. That lesson is timeless. Criticism can become your greatest teacher if it contains truth, and it becomes meaningless if it doesn't. Either way, anger serves no purpose. The Stoic asks, what can I learn from this? Instead of, how can I get even? This mindset transforms conflict into growth. It turns pain into wisdom and disappointment into discipline. Gradually, people begin to notice something different about you. They expect you to react, but you remain composed. They expect you to chase approval, but you stay focused on your purpose. They expect you to be distracted by drama, but you continue building your life in silence. That is real strength. It isn't found in raising your voice, it is found in mastering your mind. Because the person who can remain calm while the world demands a reaction has already won the battle that truly matters, the battle within. Most people spend their lives waiting to feel motivated. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow, I'll work when I feel inspired, or I'll become disciplined once life gets easier. But the Stoics knew a truth that modern society often ignores. Motivation is temporary, while discipline is dependable. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. Some mornings you wake up full of energy, ready to conquer the world. Other mornings, you feel tired, distracted, and uncertain. If your actions depend on your feelings, your progress will always be inconsistent. But discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks only one question. What is the right thing to do right now? Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that he was born to do his work. Just as a bee is born to make honey, he didn't wait for perfect emotions. He acted because it was his duty, and that simple mindset separated him from those who allowed comfort to dictate their lives. Look around at the people who achieve extraordinary things. They aren't always the smartest or the most talented. More often, they're the ones who keep showing up when everyone else quits. They train when they're tired. They study when they're bored. They keep their promises even when no one is watching. That is the quiet power of discipline. Every time you choose action over excuses, you strengthen your character. Every time you resist the temptation to take the easy path, you build a version of yourself that future challenges cannot easily break. Stoicism teaches that your habits shape your destiny far more than your emotions ever will. One small decision may seem insignificant today, but repeated every day, it becomes your identity. A person doesn't become confident overnight, they become confident by repeatedly doing difficult things despite fear. A person doesn't become wise by reading one book. They become wise by practicing what they learn every single day. There is another dangerous illusion that keeps people trapped: the belief that comfort equals happiness. Modern life constantly encourages you to seek the easiest option, the fastest reward, and the least amount of effort. But comfort has a hidden cost. The more you avoid difficulty, the weaker you become. The more you chase instant pleasure, the harder it becomes to tolerate even small discomforts. This is why the Stoics deliberately embraced small hardships. They practiced self-control, accepted inconvenience, and welcomed challenges because they understood that voluntary discomfort prepares you for unavoidable suffering. When you willingly do difficult things, life loses its ability to intimidate you. Cold mornings no longer stop you. Criticism no longer crushes you. Failure no longer defines you. You become someone who trusts themselves because you've proven again and again that you can keep moving forward, even when it's uncomfortable. Ask yourself a simple question: who are you becoming through your daily habits? Every action is a vote for the person you will be tomorrow. Every excuse strengthens weakness. Every disciplined choice strengthens resilience. The future isn't built in one dramatic moment, it is built in thousands of ordinary moments when nobody is watching. That is where true greatness is created. Not in applause, not in recognition, but in the silent decisions you make when quitting would be easier. And perhaps the greatest lesson Stoicism offers is this: you don't need to control the entire future. You only need to control the next choice. Make that choice wisely, and then the next one. Over time, those small choices create an unshakable life. They create a person who no longer depends on luck, approval, or perfect circumstances, a person whose greatest strength comes from within, and whose discipline becomes a force that no obstacle can defeat. There is one Stoic principle so powerful that, if you truly understand it, it can completely transform the way you experience life. The Romans called it amor fati, which means love your fate. Notice, it doesn't say accept your fate, it says love it. Most people spend years fighting reality. They replay the past, wishing they had made different choices. They complain about bad luck, difficult people, missed opportunities, and unexpected setbacks. But every minute spent wishing reality were different is a minute stolen from building a better future. The Stoics understood that reality doesn't care about our complaints. The past cannot be rewritten, and the future cannot be guaranteed. The only thing that truly belongs to you is this present moment and the way you choose to use it. The moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "How can this make me stronger?" your entire life begins to change. Think about every painful experience you've survived. At the time, it probably felt unbearable. Maybe you lost someone you loved. Maybe you failed an important exam, lost a job, faced rejection, or watched your plans fall apart. In those moments, it seemed like life was working against you. But looking back, many of those experiences forced you to grow in ways comfort never could. They made you wiser, more patient, more resilient, and more grateful. Without realizing it, your greatest struggles became your greatest teachers. This is the heart of amor fati. The Stoic doesn't celebrate suffering because suffering is pleasant. They value it because it reveals strengths that would otherwise remain hidden. Just as fire strengthens steel, adversity strengthens character. A life without challenges may feel comfortable, but it rarely produces courage. A life without failure rarely produces wisdom. The philosopher Epictetus compared life to a play. You are an actor, but you are not the playwright. You don't choose every role, every scene, or every challenge. Sometimes you're given a short role, sometimes a difficult one, and sometimes a role you never wanted. Your responsibility isn't to rewrite the script. Your responsibility is to perform your role with excellence. Imagine two people facing the exact same obstacle. One spends months complaining, blaming others, and waiting for life to become fair. The other accepts reality immediately, learns the lesson, adapts, and keeps moving forward. After a year, their lives look completely different, not because one had an easier path, but because one refused to waste energy resisting what had already happened. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the starting point of intelligent action. You cannot solve a problem until you first accept that it exists. This is why Stoics never allow misfortune to define them. They understand that events themselves are often neutral. It is the story we tell ourselves about those events that create suffering. A closed door can become proof that life is unfair, or it can become the reason you discover a better opportunity. A failure can become evidence that you should quit, or it can become the lesson that prepares you for success. The event is the same. The interpretation is different, and your interpretation shapes your destiny. So the next time life doesn't go according to your plans, pause before complaining. Ask yourself, if this challenge was sent to make me stronger, what is it trying to teach me? That single question turns frustration into curiosity, fear into growth, and pain into purpose. Marcus Aurelius believed that the obstacle is the way, that every barrier contains the path forward, if you're willing to look for it. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it, you become impossible to defeat. Life may knock you down, but it cannot keep you there. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every failure becomes fuel. Every hardship becomes another chapter in the story of a person who refused to be broken. And that is the true meaning of Stoic strength, not a life without storms, but a soul that learns to walk through every storm with calm, courage, and unwavering purpose. Conclusion: the final Stoic lesson. As we come to the end of this journey, remember this: Stoicism is not about becoming cold, emotionless, or disconnected from life. It is about becoming so deeply rooted in your values that no storm can uproot you. The world will continue to change. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Success will come and go. But if you have trained your mind, protected your character, and learned to focus only on what you can control, then nothing outside of you can truly break you. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow. Every setback becomes another lesson. Every new day becomes another chance to practice courage, wisdom, discipline, and self-control. The goal is not to have a perfect life. The goal is to become the kind of person who remains steady, no matter what life brings. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So, guard your mind, strengthen your character, and remember that your greatest battle has never been against the world. It has always been against the weaker version of yourself. Win that battle every single day, and you will become someone that no criticism can shake, no failure can destroy, and no obstacle can stop. If this video gave you a new perspective, take a moment to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Write one word in the comments: unbreakable. Let that word be your promise that from this day forward, you will focus less on controlling the world and more on mastering yourself. Until next time, stay calm, stay disciplined, and keep walking the Stoic path.